Angenette, over to you. Peyton McLean from YouTube asks, did any of the students have previous harassment or stalker reports on anyone?
Not official reports. We've, of course, heard that Kaylee Gonsalves had said something about potentially having a stalker. And the police here in Moscow have been looking into that. They say that they've looked into reports about that. It doesn't sound like this was a formal report that was made, but she may have made a comment off the cuff to people and referenced this. The latest we know from the police is that they found some video of Kaylee at a business, and there were a couple of guys hanging around, and police say they went and interviewed those people, and one of the men was trying to approach her, and they believe that this guy had nothing to do with the homicides. He was simply there trying to pick up girls or meet girls, and that was what happened. But they say they're still looking for information from people about that, whether they know anything more about that, so they can further look into that claim. I mean, think about it. If it happened to be, let's speak hypothetically, if it happened to be a stalker situation, it seems unusual that they would have killed 4 people. However, it's still possible. But if it's not true, that's something they need to be able to exclude. They need to be able to rule out that possibility. And, you know, Bobby could probably speak to this better than I could, but, you know, that's a lot of what goes into these investigations is not just ruling people in, but ruling them out and excluding them so they can kind of move forward and get on their way with the investigation and go in other directions that might be viable.
And Angenette, just to follow up, because we have a question from Multiverser on YouTube, the 10 calls to X, do we know if those were texts or voice calls, anything on voicemail?
We don't know if they were voice or text, but from what I gathered, and I saw an interview with Kaylee's sister, Kaylee Gonsalves' sister, on Inside Edition, and she talked about these phone calls and the fact that they had called Jack so many times from 2 a.m. around that time to 2:52 a.m. She said that was the last call. And so it's interesting that they called so many times. She made it sound like they were actual calls, not necessarily text messages. So I'm sure that's something the police are looking at. Jack is the boyfriend, and they've said that, you know, they don't believe he's part of this at this point in time, that they don't believe he's part of the homicides. They've said that about a lot of people. But again, as I mentioned last hour, there was also something in italics on this that said, you know, at this time in the investigation. So we know these things are fluid and things can change. So we're not saying he's a suspect. The police don't believe he is, but it is interesting they called him so many times up until 2:52 a.m. And then it sounds like police believe the homicides occurred sometime between 3 and 6 a.m. from everything I've read.
Such a fluid situation. We could be on the air right now and something could change while Angenette is outside the police department. We just don't know. But we are taking your questions, so keep them coming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back right after this.